Few names in history evoke such visceral reactions as Nero Claudius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus. Mention his name and, well, images of unchecked cruelty, unbridled debauchery and unimaginable madness spring to mind. He is the emperor who allegedly fiddled while Rome burned, a callous artist who saw human suffering as a backdrop for his twisted entertainment. History remembers him as the emperor who murdered his own mother, Agrippina, and his wife, Poppaea Sabina, amongst countless other victims. His reign, a mere 14 years, left an indelible scar on the Roman psyche, a stark reminder of the seductive allure and terrifying potential of absolute power. But how did this young man, born into a position of immense privilege, become the monster history remembers him as? What forces shaped his psyche and drove him to commit such unspeakable acts? To understand the monster, we must first understand the man. To delve into the crucible of his upbringing and the intoxicating elixir of absolute power that ultimately proved his undoing. Nero's path to infamy was paved with familial turmoil and political maneuvering. Born in 37 AD, he was the product of a loveless and ambitious marriage between Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus and Agrippina the Younger, the ambitious sister of the Emperor Caligula. His childhood was marked by instability. His father, a cruel and erratic man, died when Nero was just 3 years old. His mother, exiled by Caligula, fought relentlessly to regain her position and secure her son's inheritance. Agrippina's machinations ultimately proved successful. She manipulated her way back into the good graces of her uncle, Emperor Claudius, eventually marrying him and engineering Nero's adoption as Claudius's heir. Under the tutelage of the philosopher Seneca, young Nero displayed a keen intellect and a passion for the arts. However, the seeds of tyranny were already sown, nurtured by a childhood steeped in violence, betrayal, and the insatiable hunger for power that marked his lineage. In 54 AD, at the tender age of 16, Nero ascended to the throne. His early reign, guided by the pragmatic hand of Seneca, offered a glimmer of hope. However, this period of relative calm proved short-lived. Nero's true nature, a volatile mix of paranoia, artistic temperament, and ruthless ambition, soon burst forth, unleashing a reign of terror that would forever stain his name. One of the most chilling episodes of Nero's reign was the murder of his own mother, Agrippina, in 59 AD. Frustrated by her meddling in his rule and fueled by paranoia, Nero orchestrated a plan to have her drowned in a boating accident. When this failed, he had her brutally stabbed to death by his guards. This act of matricide sent shockwaves through Roman society, marking a turning point in his reign and cementing his image as a merciless tyrant. Nero's thirst for blood did not end there. He unleashed a wave of purges, eliminating political rivals, wealthy patricians, and anyone perceived as a threat, real or imagined. He indulged in extravagant spectacles of cruelty, forcing senators to fight to the death in the arena, feeding Christians to lions for his amusement, all while presenting himself as a benevolent ruler, a patron of the arts, a tragic hero. Historians and psychologists have long debated the motivations behind Nero's monstrous acts. Some attribute his behavior to mental illness, pointing to possible bipolar disorder or psychosis. Others argue that his upbringing, steeped in violence and intrigue, irrevocably warped his perception of power and morality. The intoxicating effects of absolute power, coupled with a lack of consequences for his actions, likely further fueled his descent into madness. It is also important to consider the cultural context of Nero's reign. Roman society, though outwardly civilized, was built on a foundation of conquest, slavery, and public displays of brutality. Gladiatorial combat, public executions, and the systematic subjugation of conquered peoples were all accepted aspects of Roman life. While Nero's actions were undoubtedly extreme, they were not entirely outside the realm of what was considered acceptable, even expected, of a Roman emperor. Some scholars argue that Nero saw himself as an artist emperor, a visionary who transcended conventional morality. They point to his passion for music, poetry, and theatre as evidence of a sensitive soul trapped within a brutal system. However, even if we accept this interpretation, it does not excuse the horrific crimes committed in the name of his artistic vision. Nero's reign cast a long shadow over the streets of Rome. While some, particularly among the lower classes, were placated by his public works projects and extravagant games, many lived in fear of his capricious wrath. The Senate, once a bastion of power, was reduced to a puppet body, its members living in constant fear of being denounced or eliminated. The Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, an event forever linked to Nero's legacy, further eroded public trust in the emperor. Though the exact cause of the fire remains a subject of debate, many Romans blamed Nero, accusing him of orchestrating the disaster to clear land for his opulent palace complex, the Domus Aurea. While Nero publicly denied the accusations and even took steps to aid the fire's victims, the damage was done. The perception of Nero as a callous and self-absorbed tyrant took root, further fueling the growing discontent within the empire. The seeds of rebellion, sown by years of tyranny and mismanagement, began to sprout. In 68 AD, Gaius Julius Vindex, the governor